first stage was isolation. Disable their communication and transportation. Make the target as deaf, dumb, and paralyzed as possible. Setting them up for the second stage.
Hey everyone, so recently I subscribed to Netflix with the intention to immediately unsubscribe. Comment if you're one of those people who watched the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Yeah. I was one of those people that, well, okay, besides the point, I had been watching a lot of movies because yes, I'm stuck with a subscription. I was like, you know what? Let's take a look what there is here. I caught up on Cobra Kai, made a video on it, and I was looking around at some stuff. And there's some movies that have oddly been catching my attention. Another show, actually, is A Black Summer that I was actually surprisingly impressed with that starts to lose my attention later. I'm going to talk about that later as well. The movie we're going to talk about today is Leave the World Behind. I'm curious if you've heard of it. I saw the trailer, and I know it's got millions of views, and I'm sure there was a discussion around it, but somehow I missed this gem of a movie. I did ask around and ask my friends, I'm like, hey, have you heard of this movie? And they all looked at me like I was crazy. So I started thinking, maybe it had great marketing, but nobody actually went to Netflix to go see it, and perhaps it's actually an underrated movie after all. And if it's not, well, I guess I was wrong. But it seems like nobody's talking about it, and I know it came out a long time ago now, well, quote-unquote a long time ago, but it's shocking because it has an amazing cast. They have Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Kevin Bacon, and the best performance in the film, Mahershala Ali. I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name. His performance was just so good. He's so good in the movie, and it keeps the film grounded throughout. He is in my opinion, the thread that is consistent in the film that just pulls it together. I'm not saying the other performances are weak, I just think that his just really grounds the film. And if his performance wasn't as good, then I don't think that the film wouldn't have been as good as it is. It's definitely one of those films, if you're watching this, that you should watch. If you're subscribed to Netflix, it just makes sense. Go watch it right now. It's a great film. So I forgot to kind of do my intro, so welcome back. It's time to listen to Mom. So today, the first portion here is a spoiler-free review of Leave the World Behind. Then after, we're going to do spoilers about the themes and the ending. So let's talk about what this movie is about. Leave the World Behind, based on Rumaan Alam's novel, is a psychological thriller that explores the themes of family and trust and fragility of the modern society, meaning our dependency on, I guess, media, so to speak, just our reliance on technology. The film centers on two families, one vacationing, and then the owner just coming back to the rented house as they grapple with this escalated world of catastrophes that cuts them off from the outside world. So this movie takes place very isolated, with its haunting performances overall, and the eerie atmosphere. The movie critiques human dependency across the board with just tension. There's some moments in the film that are just really great with that tension building, where it's got multiple moments happening simultaneously, and then it has a resolution. It does that twice, and it does it pretty well, despite sometimes, in my opinion, they're kind of silly and a little weak in some of them, but at least it has multiple stories kind of happening to build that tension, which I thought was pretty smart. And that is what hits most in this movie, again, is the isolation. So would I recommend watching this movie? Yes. But if you're someone who dislikes when you don't get exact answers on what is happening, this movie is not for you. While things do fall apart, the theme is really just centered around the people and our dependency on technology. It never gets too political, surprisingly. While they do have some answers, maybe it's like an evil group or something, it just scoffs at the idea and then just kind of says, here we are, like an example in this clip.
Especially when the truth is much scarier.
What is the truth?
No one is in control. No one is pulling the strings.
Which leads to my point that makes this film interesting. No one is in control. When chaos happens, everyone is always control someone. When a zombie outbreak ends up happening, there's some sort of messed up structure. Somebody takes lead, there's a new leader. Even Mad Max has groups of survival people, like tribal-like moments. But right now, we're in this pre-apocalyptic where just nothing makes any sense. For me, that's where the film is scary. There is no control. Nobody has organized anything quite yet, and it's just an absolute mess. I mentioned this in another video, but if you just have that OCD tendency, the loss of control is very scary. Existing in chaos and not understanding is truly where fear is rooted. The jump scares in this movie are limited. It's just more about the discussion and the immersion of loss of control. It's more of a thriller. It's not it's kind of a horror film if you're in the world, but still, if you navigate it and you're looking for a scary movie, this isn't for you. Because recently, I openly admit, I've been a real sucker for these pre-apocalyptic moments, just where like, oh, this is out, this is happening, how do we navigate this? I just find it really interesting. Seeing things crumble and seeing characters either improve or just fall apart in ways they did not expect is just so interesting to me. So let's discuss maybe why you won't like this film. It takes place in small, isolated areas, And you do get glimpses of the bigger picture. So if you want to see all the chaos at all times, then this movie just isn't for you. You're going to be like, oh, I want to see everything else. Then that's not what this movie's about. The performances across the board are solid, but if you don't like any of the actors, well, you're just kind of stuck with them the whole movie. Also, the movie is about smaller details. It keeps dancing around topics and to add suspense and lets you fill in the gaps. But for others, that's going to be like, I hate this movie. This movie sucks. And from what I heard, it does remain faithful to the book, with the writer being on, as a consultant and approving of the ending adjustment, which we'll talk about later. I would say the CGI is definitely weak, especially on the animals. It looks very out of place. The deer, it wasn't doing it for me. I don't know. It was a little silly. I could tell the budget went into the actors, not exactly the set pieces. And we get these few moments that really is it. A few moments, even when sometimes characters can feel a bit blind. They try to mask it by having their arrogance be their downfall, but that's where we're at. So next up, spoilers. You click off at this moment and go enjoy the movie and come back, and let's talk about just what I will high level talk about the themes of this movie. They never reveal truly what does come, unfortunately, and we see the set piece fall with a theme of technology and media and a reliance on it. That we are practically useless in the modern era. We crave media as our safeguard rather than relying on others, and even as our characters talk about their jobs, it's people-oriented. But they're not really truly talking to one another. That the enemy realizes that they can destroy our world in steps, and that's why they talk about these steps. Step 1, isolate. Step 2, synchronize chaos, so nobody understands what's going on, no information. And then step 3, they let us do the work ourselves and just tear each other apart. Now, I guess it would be silly for all of us to turn on each other. That's a pretty wide exception, like thinking like, why would everybody do that? Why don't just people hold out instead of just going full on civil war? So it's painting the world if we just truly lose our trust in people and we just need media that much. It's why our leads are so distrustful at the beginning and constantly battling and bickering despite having things that are clearly okay. It sets the stage for us. The ending, and I'm going to talk about that. Even when they first meet, our leads are just talking back and forth and saying, I would have preferred if, gotten face to face to talk, I would have preferred this, in a world with just like an email. Like, it's crazy where you can be at somebody's house vacationing and never even seen their face, heard their voice. And we're seeing it even as we look for work, where sometimes positions are completely remote. It's interesting. At the end of the movie, it is implied the group will meet up, and is left up to understand. Also, the state of the world seems to be in chaos and sure what it is. There's nobody controlling it from the assumption. The ending is a little different from the book, where Rose, or the little girl from Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts, takes supplies back to the group, but the movie hits the theme harder of being reliant on media, and it just waits for the group despite them being worried about her. She's into the show Friends, which kind of hits this imaginary lifestyle of what it means to live in the world. Everyone... I guess, they say it earlier in the film. I'm going to put this clip here.
Don't get me wrong, I watched it too. But it's almost nostalgic for a time that never existed,
Where it hits on nostalgia that just never truly existed. I would say when I grew up in New York, 14 years ago, I can imagine that. We kind of lived like that, but it wasn't like that either. It's just a heightened sense. I mean, that's what entertainment is. It's supposed to be cushy, fun, take us away out of our current life. But we do see this group come together, and while the world does not, it makes you wonder how everything else is going to resolve. It makes such a hard assumption, assuming everyone's going to go crazy bonkers. But it's not about what's happened at this point, it's about what they're going to do from here that defines them. So it kind of leaves the table as if everything's going to be okay, because it is a little wild to assume everyone's just going to continue to go mass chaos and civil war, sure. But yeah, that's what it seems to imply, and especially with Rose and them being comfortable in their fallout shelter, they should be fine. It seems like that's what the writer was also intending. So let me know if you enjoyed this movie. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know. Comment if you how you feel about this movie. Have you watched it too? I mean, I feel like I'm super late. But nonetheless, that's my thoughts on it, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, everybody.